Bonjour, Victoria, enchantée. Bonjour, Victoria, enchantée. Bonjour, je m'appelle École. Bonjour, Victoria, enchantée.
Each team has 20 minutes to present a case to the judge. I will show a board for the 10, 5, last 2 minutes and last 30 seconds of the presentation. During the last 10 seconds of the speech, I will indicate by means of my two hands the number of remaining seconds. I think not having ended this presentation after 20 minutes will be stopped to move on the period of question. A period of question of a maximal duration of 5 minutes is assigned to the jury at the end of the presentation. I would like to remind to each judge that it is mandatory to ask last one question during this period. I will invite to the judge to introduce themselves.
My name is Guy Goulet. I'm President and CEO of Genius Properties. I'm a geological engineer, graduated from École Polytechnique de Montréal in 1986. I've been working in a junior mining company listed on the Toronto Stock Exchange for the past 30 years.
Hi, my name is Victoria Smaniolo. I'm the Director of Internationalization and Branding at Ecotech Quebec, which is the Quebec Clean Tech Cluster.
My name is John Booth. I'm a fund manager and director of Genius. I was previously an investment banker for many years. Before that, a lawyer and originally a biologist.
Thank you very much for arriving here today. My name is Christopher Flores-Lyons. This is Simona Albert, and this is Nicole Kozak. We're here on behalf of Lunar Consulting to present to you, Mr. Goulet, and the Board of Directors of Genius Properties, our action plan to help you improve the lives of the citizens of Cerro de Pasco in Peru, and as well become profitable within the new merger in Cerro de Pasco.
Your mandate will be to provide Genius Properties Ltd. with a long-term community building strategy that will engage primary stakeholders and embrace brand awareness. Our team also developed 3 key performance indicators for the next couple of years. Our first one is to increase community satisfaction by 40%, along with economic growth, increase it by 10 times in the next 20 years, and finally increase environmental decontamination by 80% again in the next 20 years.
So to start off our analysis here, to see where you guys currently are as a company in Peru, newly merged with the companies in Peru here, we want to take a look at the stakeholders that you have to consider when making your decisions of choosing an action plan for the future 15 years. So first, looking at our shareholders, of course, you have to make sure that the shareholders are getting a fair deal with the future plans of the company. Looking at the government regulations and their limited action in the past regarding the site in Peru. And then looking at Genius management as well, looking at the balance of having managers here within Quebec and Nova Scotia, and then as well as within Peru and managing the site there. The youth population and local population is something we also believe is very important to take into consideration when choosing your action plans for the future and within remediating the sites in Peru, and also going over the future opportunities that you can create for the youth and for the local population to improve their economic well-being within the communities. Next, we're going to look at our Pest Analysis, which looks at political, economic, social, technological, and environmental, as well as legal factors that you also have to take into consideration when making a decision about our action plan. First off is the political factors, including how so far to date the local government has been limited in their actions of improving the conditions of their local population and of the citizens of the city, as well as reining in and controlling the mining and environmental impact from from mining operations within the city. Looking at economic impact, currently the city has low purchasing power and is in a poverty state, which we hope that we'll be able to improve with our plan. Looking at social, the community within the city is very close-knit, and so word of mouth does travel quite quickly. And as a community, they do work together to strive to make better lives for themselves with the jobs. However, there is the factors right now of the recent surveys showing that over 90% would leave the city if guaranteed a job wherever they if they were offered it. So we want to make sure that we take this into consideration. Looking at environmental factors right now at the site, there is the lead contamination of the local water supply and within the areas. And then with having the large pit dividing the city and having the noisy construction of mining at the site, we want to make sure that those factors are considered when taking in the new plan. And looking now at we want to look at your integration into the future, what your goals are as a company over the next 15 plus years at the site in Peru. Currently, the merger with the Cerro de Pasco Resources has given you the opportunity to take a look and expand your knowledge within the mining industry internationally. Having this new site within Peru gives you that chance to expand your knowledge and then give and share our values as well as a company to the Peruvians as well. Having discussions with locals has been very important, as well as having the managers working inside the community, and right now having a stagnant and open tailing ponds that's open to environmental factors such as wind. So the goal that we have as a company over the next 15 years is to generate a lot more local jobs, improve the health and education of the citizens of Cerro de Pasco, as well as diversify their economy and begin the profitable extraction of minerals from the tail pond water.
So we've given you a landscape of what currently Peru is looking like in the local communities, and here is our strategy, the 4 pillars of which we are going to look at today. So we encourage the adoption of these 4 pillars since they will tie very heavily into the strategy and be a very concrete value for you to take forward with you. So you can see them above and we'll move them forward. So first, the most important is empowerment. This is giving the community the ability to not only diversify their economy, since 60% are tied to or within the mining industry, one that has been declining, but also that 90% of people who are willing to leave, we want them to stay in the community, to grow their community. There's children who are going to grow up in this community, and we want them to be able to grow, gain skills, and become more skilled laborers as well. So the best way of doing this is through microloans. And the reason why is because it encourages the local entrepreneurship and create a diversified economy. So to make sure that the local entrepreneurs don't take the money and run, having a split between money, training, so for example, they want to become a plumber. So they first need money to equip themselves and get themselves started. Maybe they need an assistant plumber with them, so to pay them, pay their family, food and shelter. Training, so how to become a plumber. And then the materials, so the tools that they'll need. So having this split will give them the tools that they need without just giving a quick cash. Because one of the things that we noticed is that you do want a solution on how to allocate the dividends that you want to invest back into the community. And through this split, you'll be able to control procurement, be able to control the diversification of the economy, and be able to encourage innovative, feasible, and scalable ideas. So with this, hoping to all businesses become self-sustaining. So when you do look at an exit strategy, you're not pulling out and there's nothing there anymore. So really making sure that each entrepreneur is growing their business. They're seeing food on the table, they're seeing money in their pockets, and they're seeing security for their families and their communities. Moving forward, this is the key thing, so driving entrepreneurship to grow the local economy, and hopefully those impacts will spread to other communities beyond Cerro de Pasco. Accountability. This is really within the communities. So having that constant engagement with the local leaders, groups, and innovators in the community will help you not only gain champions, but to leverage the communication channels that you do have. Since in South America, a lot of the culture is very word to mouth, trusting your neighbor, working with your neighbor, it is crucial and impartial that you keep these lines of communication open, really make sure that every staff member from Genius Properties who's on the site is having positive interactions with the community, is really listening, really engaged, and is giving feedback to the company so it can move forward and address those concerns. And then incubators and town halls are the most recommended way off-site to get that local feedback and increase the satisfaction within the community. Health and safety. We noticed that there is incredibly high arsenic levels within the community, especially in the children. And it's because they're picking up dirt, they're playing with it, and they might touch their mouth, and then that's how they get it. So we think it's critical, and I would like to draw a comparison to Chernobyl. So after Chernobyl happened, all the kids had very frail bones, they're getting radioactive poisoning. This is sort of the same thing where their safety and their health is being compromised by staying in the community. So by having a youth experience program, a nice way of presenting the program is to focus on the child health. So getting the children out of the community for a short periods of time where they can not only gain access to education, a safe environment where they're not being contaminated, get those arsenic levels down, increase their health, while building the infrastructure that they're going to need so they can come back and go to local schools. And then this will also give jobs to the community members who are very giving, they're very compassionate, so future teachers, nurses, and so on. So it has a dual benefit in increasing the health of the vulnerable population and also providing jobs to those who can be future community leaders for youth. And they will return with their education and knowledge, and they'll feel tied to their community and wanting to bring it back from a very young age. And lastly, transparency. This is with mostly the international community. In the mining industries and other resource extraction agencies, it's very crucial to have that open line of communication because that's what's going to increase brand reputation, solidify contracts with governments, getting in there, getting the contract, and the government trusts you to come in and not completely destroy the land and exploit the resources, but also to really engage with the community and the global and national communities as well. So if not already done so, we highly recommend applying for the certification of GRI standards. It's a standard that's over 100 countries and very specific and tailored to the industry that you are in. So this would include waste management, decontamination, resource extraction, efficiency, and also the human factors such as economic well-being, social stability, safety. It's a very inclusive and comprehensive standard. Also leveraging your internal targets and publishing them. By having that accountability to the public, you can hold accountability to yourselves. We're right around New Year's Eve, just past telling people your goals helps you get to the gym, helps you eat it right. So we can see this translate into a company as well when it's published and championed internationally. And then really getting those local education programs, since this is not a mining company per se, but includes mineral extraction through the filtration system, it's important that the local community understands this, and they understand that they're not just being exploited in their area, or the 400 years of mining is continuing. And then through this, also having site visits. So anyone who wants to see the site is welcome to come tour, see how everything works, gain some knowledge, gain some experience, and then hopefully they can tell the rest of their community and really help spread the word and the positive reputation, which will translate into a more global increased reputation. Some risks and mitigation. We did think that just providing an education program, just providing training, is going to increase that chance of a brain drain. So just giving them an education, learning how to read, those without the tools to stay in the community, the 90% will leave. So it's important that you invest in them and reinvest in that community, giving them the tools that they can start their own business and development in their community, and that's where the empowerment pillar comes in. Mistrust from the locals, this is really increasing your presence and really getting in there, grassroots, talking, having real conversations with people who are affected, the stakeholders, and who really need to know what's going on. And then improper loan use, you can reduce this with contracts and installments. So giving them small amounts of money so that the feedback and the accountability is increased.
Let's discuss how we will be implementing this strategy in the next couple of years. So we divided, of course, this strategy into 4 components. So we will be empowering the community all throughout the years, non-stop, in terms of education and providing skills to employees to make sure that once the firm exits, the society will be independent and sustainable. In terms of accountability, for short term, we will get the accreditation, and for the next couple of years, we will be also monitoring to make sure that we are following our objectives in terms of economical, social, environmental. For health and safety, we will be doing a cleanup of the local community and the mining location in the next 8 years. And finally, in terms of transparency, we will release a yearly CSR report that details all our initiatives and programs for our shareholders so that they're more aware of the actions we are taking to help the community. So for the empowerment, we will also identify the community champions and leaders, and we will allocate investment funds immediately to local entrepreneurs and hire financial advisors to help the entrepreneurs along the way. We will also provide, of course, employee training and enrich student education. Along with that, we will be providing resources and external relations to successful startups that may have potential to other communities. For accountability, we will be moving forward. We will identify youth experience program. We will launch it, and in the next 2 to 15 years, we will, of course, decontaminate the mining location. And finally, transparency. We will acquire the GRI standards and develop the CSR objectives. This should take approximately 2 years, and as Simon mentioned, we will be doing site visits. For finances, we expect to have low cost for communicating about initiatives and education in the community because it will be word of mouth. And we will be spending $20 million on infrastructure to get our program going. And we're expecting an economic growth to increase by 10 times. The reason for this is because the advantages to our program will be indirect, and it will be more reinvested in the community. We can talk more about the financials during the questions.
Today we've given you a strategy and an implementation of how you as Genius Properties can take your existing ideas, your amazing innovation, and combining that with the community engagement. It is important that not only do you give the skills and you empower the people, but you remain accountable to all your stakeholders, as Chris mentioned earlier. We've seen the feasibility of this project, and we invite you, I know not everything is in your notes, but we invite you to ask any questions that you may have, and we want to thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Have you got one first, or?
Go.
You say here at one of the last sentence, then you come back at the end, 2 years to 15 years, decontaminate Cerro de Pasco. It's a big challenge. Have you got some ideas, or you're sitting there in a natural geological accident, there's lead, zinc, not only from the mining operation, but there's lead, zinc, silver all over the place. That's why people have been there for 400 years. They're living on that. Have you got some ideas, or because you did not mention, you're going to decontaminate?
So one thing is the water contamination, and it was mentioned that the technology for the filtration of that water is there, but also through mining processes, I do know that one of the requirements is ARO, so everything that happens within the mining process has to be dealt with accordingly. So we assume that the technology for the decontamination was there, and our mandate was primarily to provide those soft skill community aspects to creating a sustainable business, because as we know, you have that vision in mind of sustainability and the innovation and technology to do so, but missing that brand awareness, missing the viability of the project.
What business are we in?
So
the companies within Genius Properties is within the mining business and licensing properties from different mines and managing them throughout Quebec, Nova Scotia, and now within Peru. So to add on to Simone, with starting off with the remediation of the tailwater sites, or the tailwater ponds, through extracting the excess minerals that have been left over from previous mining operations, and then looking to take your experience from mines within Quebec and Nova Scotia to bring in some of your new mining techniques that are more catered towards the 21st century mining of being a lot more using a lot more techniques that are less environmentally damaging, and instead of the strip mining that may have that was occurring in the past few years. Then using that to be able to work with the community to remediate the soil within the area of the crevasse in the city.
It's a follow-up question. So, because creating this micro bank with micro loans and a youth program, etc., it's not our core business. So, how do you see we succeed in doing so?
Yeah. Well, we see by leveraging economies of scale of being a larger multinational corporation that has experience within different countries, bringing in experience from having sustainability banks in Quebec who will be able to give you guidance and consultation to help the local communities within the Cerro de Pasco, as well as using the money that's coming in, the income from remediating the site of the leftover silver and mineral deposits in the area. You'll be able to use that in order to fund the microloans to help diversify the economy, and then also generate more revenues as well from loan installment or from the dividends from the loan installments that you're giving out.
To add on to what Chris said, it might not seem like the most obvious thing you're in your core business, but at the same time, this strategy, once it does go well, it can turn into a point of education for other companies. So, for example, let's say creating a subsidiary of Pure Consulting on how to go into a community and how to have that extraction process, but also all the soft skills that we did mention, and this can generate additional revenues with clients either in your industry through selling your knowledge and your services, but also in the extraction, all of the extraction industries, whether it be forestry or other ones. So what might seem a little bit a tangent from your primary business can very easily turn into a source of revenue when successful.
Most microloan programs are driven by a restriction in capital availability for people that already have an entrepreneurial bent. Would you like to comment with regards to the level of education, a number of people living in this very high altitude, entirely dependent upon mining community, and how you're going to, I like the idea,
Yeah.
I'm just
letting you
concerned it's a little unrealistic.
Well,
In terms of getting them up the value chain from understanding,
This is it's a long-term project that's running for at least 15 years that we've seen as a plan. So with youth coming in,
but is our issue not the environmental side of life as opposed to the economic empowerment side?
well, for once, a good so by focusing on, you can't just focus on cleaning up the environment and not focus on the people, especially in the mining industry. The time and time again, mining companies, although you're a little bit different from that, have gone in and, so for example in Yellowknife, they've gone in and there's arsenic poisoning in everything because of the gold extraction. So cleaning up the environment, and especially since there's 70,000 people in this city, and most of them are, 60% of them were reported to be associated or in the mining industry. But there's no mining in that industry. And especially if you can only create 5,000 jobs, what is the other population, 65,000 people going to do? Especially youth. And should there not be mining continuing, what are those 5-year-olds going to do when they're 20 years old? So, for example, in ARC in the United States, it's in the Appalachian regions. They shut down the coal mining, or coal is declining. But these towns don't have the skills that they need. And because Cerro de Pasco is so heavily dependent on the mines, they need job retraining. And they need to learn new skills. With the microloans, to touch on your point, by having a split between money, materials, and training and what they need, it's going to give them the tools. It's going to give them the education and job retraining, and it's going to give them that startup cash that they need to get going. So
what do we do about the idea that we're raising money in the capital markets on a stipulated use of proceeds rather, to do a mining business, a reprocessing business, and yet we've got a budget of what, 40 million? in there for some microloans?
Well,
Where's the money coming from? How are you, like,
Was this really 40 million for the mining
well,
loan?
I don't know, I mean, my slide is.
No, can you go back
Yeah.
there?
Go back
Sorry,
to the-
we're getting short on time, but we, this one. The idea is good. Personally, I think the idea is good on the, but not, don't call it a micro loan. Give a grant, because you'll never see the money back, by the way. The money will never come back.
And it's a
Infrastructure.
different concept. This is what John was trying to.
Funds to entrepreneur, our financial advisor.
It's $40 million.
It's a lot of money.
So I just, you know, the NPV of this thing over a 15-year period is, you know, a significant amount of money. But that only transpires as a result of cash flow over a period of time based on initial investment, right? So where's this 40, because you want to deploy this immediately, where's it coming from?
Well, we were presented with financial statements, but that started, I'm sure that Genius Properties or in the merger, there's cash assets to be like very high liquidity, so that can get it started. As the money comes in, the revenues come in, expenses paid, and then we're left with retained earnings. That is where the new source of revenue is. So at first, it might be a little bit of a cash constraint in terms of for example, handing out loans, training new employees, all that. But then, with an NPV of 566 million and I think it was 4 billion in US dollar profit, in the end, the mineral extraction is going to result in profits, and that is where you're given the mandate to how to allocate these profits, how to allocate the dividends to the stakeholders.
Okay, so one of the issues that you've identified is the contamination.
That's right.
There's 40 million for your microloan program. What's the budget for decontaminating?
So looking at decontaminating the site, we estimate it's probably going to be quite a bit more than the 40 million. Rough numbers that we've looked at were between 120 to 200 million dollars in order to reclaim the sites. While reclaiming the sites, though, we'll be able to process out any of the or collect any of the other minerals, such as silver, to resell and use in different to sell to different industries as well through while reclaiming the sites.
But once we have
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank